Good morning, afternoon, or evening, everybody, and welcome to Pangolin, the conservation podcast. The show dedicated to exploring and amplifying the world's underappreciated conservation stories. The stories that inspire me, and I hope will inspire you too. I'm your host, Jack Baker, and today I am joined by Sonam Tashi Lama, Program Coordinator for the Red Panda Network. He is here for the second of our Red Panda themed episodes. Last time, we were joined by Terrance Fleming to discuss what the Red Panda actually is, its relationship to the Giant Panda, and how the Red Panda Network works globally to protect the species. And this time, Sonam is here to discuss the Red Panda Network's in situ conservation efforts, so we're really focusing in on Nepal. This includes discussion of their research, education work, and Forest Guardian programme. We also chat about how their work is helping to empower local communities in the fight to save the Red Panda, and how Sonam won a 2022 Whitley Award for his work. Now, without further ado, let's get started. Welcome back to the show. I am now joined by Sonam Tashi Lama, the Programme Coordinator for the Red Panda Network. He's here to tell us all about the network's in situ conservation efforts of the Red Panda in Nepal. So thank you so much for joining me today, Sonam.
Thank you, Jack, for inviting Red Panda Network for the second time on your popular podcast. And we are really privileged to be here. And we like to welcome all the listeners to this podcast.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's been great to have you on. And I think the last episode with Terrance is doing really, really well. The listeners are kind of loving it and loving to learn more about this animal. So I think it's great to have you here to tell them a little bit more about the conservation work that's going on to help protect this species that is so charismatic and so loved. So thank you for joining me. I wondered, just to get us started, I've given you a little bit of an introduction there, but I wondered, could you tell the listeners a little bit more about yourself and kind of tell them a little bit about what it is that you do?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Jack. I'm Sonam Lama from Red Panda Network, and I work as a program coordinator, where my basic role is to implement the Red Panda conservation activities that we do in the field. That includes training our forest guardians. I hope you guys know what forest guardians are, and supervising our field staffs in implementing every activities that we do in the field for the conservation of red panda. And we work in the 10 districts of Nepal, in the eastern and the western districts of Nepal. And we started to work in Nepal for the conservation of wild pandas in 2007.
Perfect. So it's really, really interesting. And yes, we'll definitely circle back and talk about the Forest Guardians, because we mentioned them a little bit with Terrance last week. And I think it'll be good to kind of get your kind of perspective on it, since you are kind of more hands-on, heavily involved in that project. I wondered, though, something you mentioned there is that you kind of started 2007, I think it was, you said. And I know that you were there kind of right at the beginning of the organisation. So I wondered kind of what it was that made you want to work with red pandas in the first place. What was it that kind of was the spark that made you want to do this?
Yes, you are right that I was involved since the beginning of the Red Panda Network in Nepal, and in 2007 we started our community-based Red Panda conservation program from a small village in eastern Nepal, which is just on the foothills of Mount Kanchenjunga. That Mount Kanchenjunga is third highest mountain in the world, and we have a very beautiful district there called the Ilam district, and we did a consultation workshop with the local communities there, and the smallest unit of our local partners is a community forest user groups in Nepal. And so we did a first consultation meeting with the community forest there, and then we took their advices how we can start and initiate a red panda conservation program. That will be centered with the local people, uh, being the implementer of Red Panda Conservation Project, the locals. So then after that, the locals are very keen to support our project and they wanted to be involved. That's why we created the Forest Guardians program right in the beginning of Red Panda Network.
That's really interesting, actually. Really, really interesting. What was it about them for you, I suppose? For like on a personal level, was it just an animal you've always admired, or was it something that kind of you kind of learned their story and then wanted to kind of help conserve them? Where did that kind of come from?
Uh, my association with the red panda conservation began when I was a little bit young because in the rural setting of my village, there was no any education that prioritized conservation of wildlife because the people are always busy for their own job. That's to grow their grains for a year, and that cannot sustain their life.
Mm-hmm.
And livelihood is important in there. So after when I was around 12 years of age, the WWF came to my village to establish a conservation area, that is Kanchanjunga conservation area, and
Mm-hmm.
they taught us about value of red panda or value of wildlife conservation.
Mm-hmm.
And then I realized that conservation of wildlife is important. And later I joined forestry to pursue a career in conservation. And suddenly one day I read a news article about a guy, American guy, whose name is Brian Williams, and who is my colleague, and he is also founder of Red Panda Network. And he was
Mm-hmm.
on that news article. He was trying to study red panda in one of the eastern districts of Nepal, and that news really grabbed my attention. So uh, before that, I was not so much into red panda, and then I decided to contact with Brian because red panda was in my village because I knew that there was a time when I was a very young child. There used to be a red panda pelt in my house, which was brought by my father from the nearby forest, and that was being used as a scarecrow. And then that was a all coincidence that I read a news article about Brian Williams, and then
Mm-hmm.
I said him I wanted to be a member of your mission, or I wanted to join Red Panda Network because I really like the red panda as an animal at that time because
Mm-hmm.
I was a little bit young kid trying to understand what the importance of wildlife was. And then in 2007 I met Brian. Then we launched Red Panda Network from a village there.
Mm-hmm.
So I was my main role in the that village was to engage our local communities in red panda conservation. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's really interesting because I was going to ask what your kind of role was back at the beginning, and was it mostly that kind of public engagement, kind of chatting with people, telling them about the red panda type work, or was there other things going on as well?
Yeah, basically my role was to continue the research in the field and to
Mm-hmm.
train the local citizen scientists who we know as forest guardians. They are the people from the
Mm-hmm.
local communities, and we train them as a citizen scientists to collect and monitor red panda in their forest. And that was my role, to train them and to monitor them. And they used to be in the forest once or twice in a month to monitor red pandas population,
Mm-hmm.
to check if there is anything going wrong. And besides that, my engagement used to be huge in engaging local communities, discussing how we can protect red pandas and how we can help them to be engaged because their main concern is their livelihood. So how we can support their livelihood for the red panda conservation.
Mm-hmm.
So my yeah, basically I was deputed in the field for full time, and I was there for 3 years in the field at the beginning. Yeah.
Mhm. That's really, really interesting, actually. And I think we've talked about it a little bit now, but before we move on, it probably would be a good idea to tell the listeners what you were doing kind of more with the Forest Guardian. So what is that project about? What were you kind of training them to do? What was the role of a Forest Guardian?
Yes, the role of the forest guardians are they are the locals, right? And
Mm-hmm.
they know about their landscape and forest and wildlife,
Mm-hmm.
but they don't have any ideas about the importance of their wildlife. So we try to teach them the importance of the endemic wildlife or endangered wildlife, and then we teach them how to monitor them, how to keep the data, how to collect data of red panda and other endangered wildlife in their areas. That also includes the data on their habitat,
Mm-hmm.
and they know that where the red panda lives or where the animals lives, so they can generate a better data on that wildlife. And if there is a local monitor in the forest who is always there in their village, so if there is anything going wrong, they can inform to the respective enforcement agencies. That's really effective. That was the model of our forest guardian program was very effective during the pandemic like COVID-19, because we were not able to go into the field areas, and the officers from the government who are responsible to take care of the forest were also not able to travel to the field sites. So at that time, our forest guardians were always there. So they kept their eye open if there is anything going wrong.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So the forest guardians are the local people who are trained as a citizen scientists to monitor red pandas and other endangered wildlife. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's really interesting. And I know last week when I was speaking with Terrance, he was kind of talking about how there are so many other issues kind of circling around conservation in terms of kind of making sure people are able to feed their families or able to kind of sustain themselves before they can help sustain wildlife. I wondered, and I wanted to ask you, what were kind of the practical challenges in kind of setting up this? Was there a kind of hesitance from local people to want to get involved? Did they see it as important when you first spoke to them, or was there kind of a was it there? Were they hesitant?
They were not hesitant because
Mm-hmm.
in the first introduction,
Mm-hmm.
they always wanted to know why we need to conserve red pandas and why this species specifically,
Mm-hmm.
and how we can conserve and how we get benefited from the red panda. After we chat with them, and we describe the importance of red panda to the local people, they really wanted to be involved, and there is always higher demand of people, or the people that they wanted to join red panda conservation are
Mm-hmm.
always in high number than we I really need in a village. So we cannot hire everyone, and definitely we need to go through the some of the qualifications sake and some requirements. But still, the willingness to participate in red panda conservation from the local communities or local people
Mm-hmm.
are really appreciated. They always wanted to support us.
Mm-hmm. That's fantastic. It's really encouraging to hear kind of whenever you hear stories like that about people really wanting to get involved. It's really, really it always brings a smile to your face about kind of yes conservation and that sort of thing. I wondered, still kind of talking around that similar topic. Once they kind of sign up, what kind of training is it that they receive more specific? Like what skills do they need to be a forest guardian? What kind of citizen science things are they trained up to do?
It is not much into the
Mm-hmm.
science, but they need to be able to have basic skills to read and write in local language, that's Nepali language. So they have to fit to go into the forest
Mm-hmm.
physically, and they have to be socially in a good manner, and good relationship with the local people, local communities. That's only basic thing, and the Red Panda Network itself doesn't hire or doesn't involve in a hiring process of the forest guardians, because we always consult with the communities, local community. They have a community forest user groups, so we invite them to send or recommend two people from their community forest as a forest guardian. So That's uh, that's more from the community decision.
Yes, that's really interesting, and I think it's the type of it's nice to know that it's not anyone really could do it. Anyone could be a forest guardian. I think that's a nice thing, and I think that's something I try and talk about here with anyone who wants to get involved in conservation. As long as you're passionate about it and kind of
Hmm.
willing to go out and learn these skills, then you can be involved. So it's nice to hear that it's similar-ish for you, even though you're halfway across the world from me. It's really interesting to hear about. I wondered, kind of, obviously the Forest Guardian program is still going, but since everything started in 2007, how has it grown and kind of changed? Has it kind of grown bigger than you would have expected, or how is it how's it developed over that time?
Definitely it has grown with more than 100
Mm-hmm.
forest gardens
Mm-hmm.
we have now. So we have a network of forest gardens in 10 different districts of Nepal from
Mm-hmm.
east to west. And definitely people are very keen to join as a forest guardians. And when we started, I think there were only 7 or 10 forest guardians with us. And then after some of them left because they wanted to change the job. But if we count all of them, maybe we had already trained more than 200 local people as a citizen scientists, and that's definitely be fruitful in conservation of red panda and other indigenous wildlife because they will always be our ambassadors of
Mm-hmm.
conservation. And and they and the pe- and the women also played a crucial role as a forest guardians and women's in Nepali society. Uh, the women are only confined in the household thing. So we always wanted to make them
Mm-hmm.
involved. So now we have around 10 female forest guardians who are very excellent, and they are equally bringing the results in red panda conservation. Yes, their male colleagues are doing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's fantastic, actually. That's really fantastic. I think yes. Was it something? Were they hesitant to join? In, if they're kind of breaking down these kind of roles that are normally in place in society, were they hesitant to join in the first place, or were they the ones coming to you saying we want to do this?
No, when we observe the community
Mm-hmm.
meeting, there are many females. They really
Mm-hmm.
want to join, and there are few female forest guardians. Some of the female forest guardians who are
Mm-hmm.
mother, they have a toddlers. Despite that one, and they wanted to be a forest guardian, and they have to trek for a day or for 2 days to get into the forest to monitor red pandas every month. That's quite challenging, and they have to take care of their
Mm-hmm.
families also. So despite that one, that kind of responsibilities they have, they are really interested and they wanted to be involved as a forest guardians. I think there is less hesitant to join as a
Mm-hmm.
forest guardian. Yeah.
That's fantastic. That's really really interesting to hear. Because I was speaking to Terrance last time about the Black Mambas, the group in South Africa, the female kind of led conservation
Mhm.
group. So it was kind of interesting for me to hear that there was also you were doing kind of something similar and kind of bringing women in and kind of putting them at the forefront and letting them kind of helping to lift their voice to kind of get them involved in conservation. It
Right.
was really really interesting. I wondered kind of, we've talked about the Forest Guardians now for a little bit, but I wanted to ask about some of the other projects that you have going on, because I know that there's kind of research, education work, all sorts of things. So if we start kind of, what kind of research projects is it that Red Panda Network is involved in now? What kind of questions are you trying to answer?
Definitely, if we are trying to save or protect a red panda or
Mm-hmm.
any wildlife species, we have to better know their ecology or their importance. So, so red pandas live in a human-dominated landscape in our country,
Mm-hmm.
and people are everywhere in the mountains, and red panda have to adapt well with the people and livestock and domestic dogs and feral dogs.
Mm-hmm.
So, so how the red pandas coping with all these disturbances? We have to better know their activities or their ecology. So to answer that question, we we GPS called 10 red pandas in 29 at the end of 2019, and we monitored them for 1.5 years. And now we have a better understanding of how much habitats they really require to survive, and how they migrate from one isolated habitat to another one, and how they are interacting with the livestock people, and the movement of vehicles in the forest tracks, and the domestic and feral dogs. So we have now a kind of answers to these questions. So, and our current red panda conservation programs are based on the results of that research. So other aspects we are trying to understand is what kind of food species they prefer, and how they can survive if there is a less bamboo, or there is a mass die off of bamboo, because bamboo has a characteristics of dying when they flower in a mass, and so they die off. So to answer that one, and how a red panda plays a role in dispersal of seeds in the forest habitat. So these are the basic questions that we are trying to find out the answers, and that would be really helpful to to generate data and results for the conception of red panda itself.
That's really interesting, actually. Really, really, because I think I don't know whether it's a perception that I had incorrectly, maybe, of red pandas just from seeing them in zoos, and kind of my kind of limited exposure would be they kind of don't move around a lot. They would sit and kind of in a tree quite happily and maybe not leave the area that they were in. But have you found that they kind of move over large areas or over between these areas quite a lot?
Yes, that's the thing we knew about how far red pandas travel, and the results from the GPS study, we found that some of the red pandas traveled quite large distances. That was uh, quite uh, uh, quite a new idea for us, new results for us, because we thought, and the results from the past previous studies in Nepal, when Nepal GPS, not GPS, radio collared some red pandas in the central Nepal, the their findings were quite different, and from our findings, they traveled quite a far distance, and which was very surprising for us. Then you just said that we generally see that the red pandas are always eating bamboos, and resting on the tree branches. So they looks quite lazy,
Yep.
but 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 at the same time they sometimes travel large areas to find a new mate, or to find a better habitat for themselves. And because and another reason of traveling uh, very far distance could be that the areas are quite fragmented, the habitats are isolated, so they have to travel a lot to find a better place for themselves.
Yeah, yeah. It's yes. I can. Yeah, I suppose we kind of touched on that last week with the kind of threats and habitat kind of fragmentation and these kind of increasing conflicts between wildlife and people, kind of making these kind of issues. And something else you touched on there was the dogs and the feral dogs kind of having kind of this conflict almost with red pandas and posing a threat to them. And that kind of was interesting for me because I think here in the UK, a big threat to wildlife, native birds and small kind of rodents and things are cats, domestic cats that people let out, and they go out and they will eat whatever birds and things they find. So it's interesting to hear that there's a similar issue almost in the with red pandas, which seem so kind of like they'd be able to stick up for themselves almost against a dog. But is it a major threat for them? Are these kind of dogs?
Yes, besides uh, the loss of habitat and poaching, the dogs are another threats for red pandas, because there are a lot of dogs in the mountain. People, and they are quite free, not they are not tied up in a house or home. So in the mountains, our people keep their livestock, free range livestock, and they also keep dogs to guard their livestock like yaks and cows.
Mm-hmm.
So when they are free and when the red pandas comes down to the ground,
Mm-hmm.
uh, it is quite easy for them to be predated by the dogs.
Mm-hmm.
And there are few records of red panda being predated or chased by feral dogs in our project sites.
Mm-hmm. That's yeah. It's just connecting all these dots for me. Have kind of all these issues seem to be similar. I spoke to somebody, Arnaud Debier, from the Giant Armadillo Conservation and Giant Anteater Conservation Projects, and he was talking about how anteaters in Brazil face the same issue with dogs. So it's interesting to hear that this kind of is an issue that springs up around the world. It's not something that is maybe exclusive
Right.
to one species. It's a
Mm-hmm.
big issue. It's when you have gathered data like that, how do you go about kind of addressing that issue? How do you kind of change your policy or try and change act
Yeah,
that?
yeah, we collaborate with local communities and local
Mm-hmm.
community forests and local councils
Mm-hmm.
and division forest offices that are from the government side,
Mm-hmm.
and to castrate the dogs to mitigate their population,
Mm-hmm.
and but the local people are quite hesitant to castrate their dogs.
Mm-hmm.
So we launched a campaign to vaccinate dogs
Mm-hmm.
with the rabies vaccines and canine distemper vaccines. So that if the red pandas or the endangered wildlife came in a close contact with the dogs, domestic dogs, they will not be infected. So we are vaccinating the dogs since 2018, I think,
Mm-hmm.
and we have been able to vaccinate a lot of them in our project site, and the local government who is responsible to manage the livestock are also collaborating with us to vaccinate the ducks in the villages,
Mm-hmm.
and that's quite helpful.
That's really interesting. And I was going to ask actually about the kind of collaboration with government and policymakers and kind of advocacy type
Mm.
work that you do. Is it mainly focused around that dog project, or do you do other things to kind of help or have get the government involved?
Yeah, definitely. The government of Nepal has been really supportive in red panda conservation, despite they have a some sort of they have a understaffing or under budgeting. So
Mm-hmm.
they also lacks proper or enough resources.
Mm-hmm.
And despite that, they are quite helpful to us, and we collaborated with the Ministry of Forests from Nepal, government of Nepal, to to develop a red panda conservation action plan, and that was the first one in the red panda range countries to be made, and
Mm-hmm.
and now we are collaborating with them to implement that red panda conservation action plan that
Mm-hmm.
was that was that was made that was approved in 2019, and that has a 5 years of validity until
Mm-hmm.
2023.
Mm-hmm.
So we are collaborating to implement the activities that are planned in that action plan for
Mm-hmm.
specifically for the red pandas, and in the areas where we have been involved in red panda conservation for more than a decade in eastern Nepal, the the offices, the forest offices who are responsible to monitor their wildlife are also
Mm-hmm.
started to separate a specific budget for red panda conservation, which is very nice.
Mm-hmm.
And and
Mm-hmm.
our target is also that we have to uh, get the regular support from the government, because they will always be there, and they have regular funding opportunities
Mm-hmm.
to conserve our wildlife species or anything. So they are taking the lead now, which is quite positive for us, because we always cannot generate enough funds to run a red panda conservation program in a specific areas. So we have a lot of areas to work. So if the government responsible officers from the government of Nepal is taking a proper care of that one, so
Mm-hmm.
it is quite sustainable in the long run.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
That's that's really interesting, and it's good to hear that they're kind of involved and wanting to be involved actively. They're not kind of sitting back and saying, "Oh, you deal with it; it's your problem." It's nice to hear that they're kind of putting themselves forward and kind of trying to help as much as they can. That's really really encouraging. Um,
Hmm.
and yeah,
Yes, 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 it is.
Does the action plan? What kind of things does that involve? What kind of what actions are being taken?
The actions are being taken in the by the action plans are
Mm-hmm.
they have four thematic areas that Red Panda Network flows. Uh, that's our research and monitoring and the management of Red Panda habitat, and the
Mm-hmm.
third one is education and outreach, and the fourth one is the policy and advocacy. So on these broad thematic areas we have different activities that that are prioritized by the government and Red Panda Network together.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's really, really interesting. I suppose we've actually kind of talked already about kind of research and a little bit about policy and advocacy. I wondered, could you tell us a little bit about education? What kind of education outreach type activities are going on?
Yeah. On the side of education and outreach, our people are not knowledgeable. They don't have enough information about red panda consumption. Why red panda
Mm-hmm.
consumption is necessary in the rural villages. So so we do red panda consumption workshops with the local communities in the villages. So that's the beginning point of red panda conservation being implemented in a community. So after that one, we recreate a forest guards and train them, and they will be monitoring red pandas for another decade or 2 decades or more than that. And and after that one, we because if we have a good policies and implementation of that policies being done in a proper way, that would be really helpful. So we work with this division forest office from the government of Nepal to make their operational plans of community forest, which are very friendly or which are very aligned to into the wildlife conservation or red panda conservation. Because if they have a operation plan before, they only mention that the red panda is there in the forest, but they don't have any plans how we can conserve the red panda in a proper way, or what are the priorities that they need to take for the next 5 years to conserve red panda. So with our expertise, we also provide the financial support to develop that kind of operation plans and do a survey inventory of their community forest, and we also support them what they have envisioned to implement in the next 5 years or next 10 years to conserve red pandas. We generate funds from outside, and we grant them that funds to manage their habitat or to run our red panda conservation scholarships to their kids, so they can be the next generation of conservationists from the local areas, so they can better understand the value of red panda and they can better coordinate with their local communities. So that's the thing we have been doing for quite a long.
Mm. And yeah, I suppose that's really important because you want these communities and everybody to kind of, if they feel like they're involved and they feel like they kind of have a connection to this animal, they'll inherently kind of want to protect it, I suppose. So that's kind of, yeah, it seems really good to get in there young and kind of get these people to kind of work with their kids and inspire their kids as well, I guess. Was that the thinking behind it, to try and kind
Right.
of inspire these kind of love at a young age? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. That's definitely true because I saw or I got the opportunity to learn about wildlife conservation when I was young.
Mm-hmm.
So my interest inclined in that direction. So I'm now in the
Mm-hmm.
conservation. So 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 I believe that if we can involve or engage the people in their young age into conservation, that will be
Mm-hmm.
very helpful to to mentor them as a conservationist in the future. So that's why we have a red panda conservation education textbooks in the local schools, community schools that are being implemented as a formal textbooks in grade 6 and 7, so they can learn about red pandas and importance of other wildlife and their biodiversity in the very young age. And we also provide them red panda conservation scholarships that will definitely help to continue their education in the school level. So after the school level, they can go to the college and study forestry or biology, and they are the next generation of conservationists that we are producing now.
Mm-hmm. That's fantastic. That's really, really fantastic. And it'll be interesting to see in 5, 10, 15 years how these kids that are learning now, how they go on and how they kind of change or shape or do something different to what is happening now, or whatever it is that they do. It'll be amazing to hear about their journeys. I wondered kind of something I like to ask everybody, and this kind of seems like a good kind of segue into it, is what kind of advice would you have for somebody who wants to help protect red pandas, whether they want to support your work or whether they're kind of based somewhere maybe that isn't local to you, maybe they're listening from halfway across the globe from where you are. How would you recommend somebody gets involved with red panda conservation and kind of helps you protect the species?
Yes, anyone from any part of the world can be our companion to protect the red pandas. They don't need to be in Nepal or in the villages to protect red pandas, because if you can be the voice of red panda conservation, if you learn about red panda conservation, if you transfer your knowledge to other colleagues or your family and friends, that would be very helpful. Because it's very important to know the species itself, and this species is very cute, cuddly, and this one needs our voices. So raising the voices is important in this digital age, because everyone doesn't get into the right direction now. So apart from that, you can be involved directly in the red panda conservation if you want to. If you have a good writing skills, you can write about red pandas and publish in our website, or publish in any news outlet or anything that is helpful for generating awareness. Or you can do some fundraisings that would be also helpful to support our local initiatives in the villages, to plant trees. If we plant the trees, by the money you raise, that would be really contributing to red panda conservation. So everyone has a role to play. So I invite all of you who are listening right now to be the companion of red pandas.
Perfect. That's fantastic advice, I think. And it's nice to have the reassurance for listeners that kind of no matter where you are, you can make a difference to this species by raising awareness and telling more people about it and kind of getting involved and spreading the word. And kind of on that note, you have a really good kind of YouTube series where you're kind of talking about the conservation of red pandas and kind of I read that it's kind of a very big film star in Nepal, the kind of that you have gotten involved. I wonder if people are interested, would you recommend that they go and watch these videos to learn more?
That one, the YouTube series, the ideas of YouTube series came during lockdown, and so we were not able to reach out to our audiences or our supporters or our local stakeholders in the field due to the pandemic. So we decided to go digital, and we produced some YouTube series but that YouTube series was to bring the voices from the very local perspective, the first-hand stories from the ground, who are directly being involved in red panda conservation. So we have our guest on that episodes of that YouTube series, the forest guardians, the local women, the local leaders, and the involvement of our film star, which is Dayahang Rai, was really impactful, because he has a huge number of followers from village to the cities, and that definitely was very impactful.
And yes, I think a lot of our listeners seem to really like hearing stories of people who are on the ground every day doing the work, as well as kind of the other perspectives. So yeah, I would encourage everyone. I've watched clips here and there and gone and had a quick look, and there's some really interesting stuff in there. So go and search on YouTube. I'll put the link in the description for the episode that people can go and have a look and learn more about what it is that you do. I suppose one final question that I had, and one kind of last thing I want to congratulate you on, is that you and your work with the Red Panda Network won the Whitley Award this year, or one of the, I think it's 6 that they hand out every year. So congratulations on that. And I wondered, could you tell the listeners, just to wrap up, finish on a good piece of personal news for you. What did you win that for, and what kind of work will it go to support?
Yeah, thank you, Jack, for your best wishes, and that's the award, the Whitley Award 2022, is all possible with the people like you and all the supporters from all around the world, and it's our honored to be one of the recipient of the Whitley Awards this year, and Red Panda Network is really pleased and inspired by that award because the Whitley Fund for Nature tries to recognize the work being done for the red panda wildlife conservation, and they have a model to build the profile, and they not only fund the wildlife conservation project, they also help to support the profiling of the conservationists, and they also provide trainings, which is a very good in model, bringing the people in the limelight and also supporting them financially. And I would like to thank Whitley Fund for Nature for recognizing the work that we have done from the Red Panda Network. And yeah, and I would like to thank you guys and everyone listening who are supporting our conservation work in Nepal. So it happened with the support from all of you, and it was not possible without your support.
Mhm. Well, yes, that's fantastic. Congratulations. It was when you emailed me just before. I had my fingers crossed, everything crossed, hoping that you would win. So I was very very happy when I saw it all kind of come out on Twitter that as they were announcing them, I was kind of scrolling through and I saw some of the other winners, and I think I got to about 3 or 4, and I was like, oh, and then saw your name pop up. I was like, perfect. That's fantastic. And yes, it's great because the work that you are doing is so important. And so I think for an animal that, as we kind of talked about with Terrance last week, is kind of maybe underappreciated by some, I always have a kind of I always kind of like when awards and things go to the people supporting those kind of species and kind of help those species, because it's nice to see the little guy get an award and something kind of to help lift it up and protect it. So that's fantastic. That kind of brings us, though, to the end of the conversation. I just want to say a massive thank you so much for your time today, because it's been really, really interesting to kind of have this kind of conversation and kind of build on what we learned about the red panda last week. I think everybody, including myself, learned more from Terrance about the red panda than I thought I would ever know, so it's fantastic. And then hearing about how you're working to protect them in kind of this double bill has been really, really fascinating. So thank you so much for taking the time to speak to me today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jack. Thank you for providing us your popular podcast, The Pangolin, and we really appreciate it. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. And yes, that kind of brings us to the end of the episode. So I thank you again to all of the listeners as well for tuning in. Thank you so much for listening and helping spread the word about red pandas and all the other species that we've talked about throughout the series. I'll put links to everything we've chatted about throughout the episode in the description. So if you want to learn more about the Forest Guardians or the Red Panda Network in general, or whatever it is, if you go down into the description of the episode, there will be links down there to take you to all of that as well. You'll also find links down there to us on social media, so you can follow at Pangolin Podcast on Twitter or Instagram or wherever it is. You can follow us on there to keep up to date with. We'll be posting lots of things about red pandas this week, but we've got so many more episodes coming up, all about all sorts of different strange, wonderful, unique animals, and we've had episodes this season all about kind of all sorts of wonderful things: tapirs, koalas, what else, anteaters. There's been all sorts of strange things we've talked about this series, so you can see all about that on social media as well. If you subscribe to the podcast, we'll be back next week with even more kind of conservation stories, so make sure to tune back in for that next time. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts from. We're on all of that. But yes, that kind of brings us to the end of the episode now that I've plugged everything. So once again, thank you so much, Sonams. Thank you so much, listeners. And until next time, goodbye, everyone.
Bye. Goodbye, Jack.